Hi, and welcome back to my channel. This is Carol from Crinkled Path Journals, and I'm coming to you today. If any of you saw my recent reel, I showed some books that I got on deep discount at my local thrift store, and this was one of them. What appealed to me about this book was the hole in the front in this picture, and I thought it would make a good altered book. I've been wanting to do a gratitude journal for a while, and I had a nature book cover and I wanted to sew in signatures, but I'm realizing with my arm I'm just not as efficient about getting through stuff, so I thought I'm gonna just make it a little easier on myself, do an altered book like I do with my memory keeping journals. This one does not really have a lot of appealing pictures. It's just photos of foods and recipes. The little Campbell's children are kind of cute, but for the most part, the pages just aren't something I would want to use to journal on. So I thought I would pull some papers and show you what I grabbed. First of all, I grabbed these. It's Jolie's Boutique. I'm sure all of these things are not going to be very new. I haven't bought paper or anything for a while. These Jolie's Boutique pages are actually adhesive backed fabric, and I think I'm going to use this to cover the cover and this one for the back cover. I'm hoping to just be able to put this cross stitch sampler on the back. I kept one of the pages that I pulled out. I pulled out 2/3 of the pages, and it leaves me with about 24 two-sided pages, so 48 pages. And so I pulled approximately 48 pieces of paper. Just in case any of you wanted to ask where I got the paper from that I pulled, these are mostly older pads that I've gotten over the years. Most of them are these Craftsmart Michaels Hot Buy papers that they sell on sale. I know they've recently, maybe in the last year, changed the format of their pads and the pricing. There's this Beautiful Day. And then some of the paper pads are from a lot set that I bought from somebody on Facebook Marketplace who was getting out of scrapbooking. And so this is Amanda Blue's Summer Solstice. I kind of went with more muted palette, and so I didn't think I would use something as bright as this, but what I found is that there were some muted pages on the backs, and so I pulled some from this K & Company. Wild Saffron is the name of this paper pack. I have another Michaels pad, Love Letter, Modern Farmhouse, Marsh Flower, and the Garden Tea Party stack. This is a piece of wallpaper. I also pulled some random pages from my scrap paper trays. And I just kind of put things together roughly to sort of match colors for facing pages. And then I'm going to cut them down and cover the pages in the book. We have this green, a piece of Braille paper, and then this scrap, this handwritten music paper, and this one, another piece of wallpaper with faux coffee dyed paper, a piece of music paper with this bookend page, and then I think the rest from here should be scrapbooking paper. These are the same, so I'm probably going to turn it and cut it so that I'm not getting the mirror image on the two facing pages. I'm not sure if I'm going with the graphic design or just with the coffee dyed side. I think I'll decide as I'm doing the pages. This one's just some simple lace. There's a bunch of neutrals here, so I'll kind of mix and match as I go so that you get a nice variety. I'm hoping this will work. It's a very large image. I may actually cut with this happy place in the corner and then see how that works out. Again, probably going to use the less graphic side of this. Really like this botanical. Stamps and a world map. Oh, and this was one of the other ones that I got from the scrapbooking lot. It's another DCWV Old World stack. You can see the strings in here. Tried very hard not to split them when I was pulling pages out. So this is a nice sturdy book. It's new, but it has kind of a vintage look to it. I liked the fabric on the spine, and so I'm just going to use that other fabric on here. Probably going to spare you watching all the cutting and gluing, and when I come back with the semi-finished product that I can start using as a gratitude journal, then I will give you a little sneak peek of it, and then we'll work through it over, who knows, the next little while. What my hope is to do some maybe shorter videos around some collaging for my daily gratitude or weekly gratitude. As most of you know, if you've watched my recent videos, they've been a little few and far between since I came back to making videos, and I appreciate the support and the patience as I get back into the swing of things. Like I said in my last video, I'm more likely to have another delay because I have to have shoulder surgery, and I found out this week that most likely I will have my right arm in an immobilizer for about 8 weeks if they find what they're suspecting. So I think my ability to record is going to get a little more difficult, and it's partially why I wanted to get this finished now before I have the surgery, because I might be able to work in this a little bit more than my memory keeping journal with my one-handedness. And I've been reassured that I will be able to use my hand for short periods of time during the day. So I'm hoping that that all works out, and I appreciate your thoughts and prayers as I'm going through that. And so I'm going to get to cutting. I'm going to use the page that I saved as my template to kind of decide where I want to cut out the section from the paper, and then I'm going to glue them down on the pages and have it ready to go. I'm also going to put a piece of that sticky fabric across here, and I have this doily border, so I'm kind of hoping that once I put some fabric here, was thinking, because this fits so nicely right there, that maybe I'd use a little bit of this or make it go all the way across the page, maybe for a tuck spot there. All right, I'm going to get underway. I'll be back when the paper is cut and glued in. I went ahead and did all the cutting and pasting off screen, so now I can show you the final product. And I will give you some little pointers, some things I learned along the way, remembering that I took out 2/3 of the pages because I was going to be double thickening each of the pages, actually tripling it if you think about it, because I put a piece of paper on each side of each page. So you can see it's a little bit thicker than the original book, but just by a smidge. And I've been kind of massaging the spine like back and forth like this so that it will be as straight as possible. As I do some collaging here, I imagine this is going to get a little gator mouth. I did leave it with a big heavy dictionary on it overnight. Some of the tips for doing your pages. So I use that adhesive backed fabric for both the front and the back. I put the piece of paper with the backing still on it here, traced the hole, and then kind of aligned it, and then I ended up still having to trim a little more off, which was a little finicky, but I think it turned out okay. I ended up putting the second piece of adhesive backed fabric here because you could still read the title of the book through it. I put a piece of the adhesive back fabric here and put this little doily piece, as I had talked about, and made a pocket. Then I have all my pages that I pulled. And as you get to the middle of the book, it gets a little stiffer. I'm hoping over time, and as I use it, that will get a little easier. Oops, got some little pieces of scraps in there. So now I have these nice neutral-ish bases, and I ended up using this wallpaper to make a pocket at the back. And then I can collage on each page my gratitude journal. So what I'm hoping to collage on here are just things that I love, and then if it's tied to what I'm thinking about gratefully that day, it'll make sense, and if it doesn't, it's okay too. It can be completely random, and then I'm just going to do a little journaling. So the tips for getting these pages on: I cut the paper the size of my sample sheet. Then I took the book this way, pulled the page up to the center, put my page down with the glue on the back of it, and kind of just wiggled it back and forth into the crease until it was well seated down in there. Then I kind of pulled it up, matched the corners, and then smoothed it to the center. And then I spent time pushing the book closed and massaging. So it worked for most of the pages. And then what I did when I was done is I just kind of looked for anything that was hanging out a little further than the actual cover, and I did have to trim a few pages that way. And then it was just very tiny little bits. So it's like, oh, I swept them onto the floor, but those little tiny pieces that you saw that I pulled out, that was some that I trimmed off. And then I just looked for places where, let me see if I can show you. So do you see how these pages don't quite match up? Anything that was really drastically bigger than that, I went ahead and trimmed this little extra hanging over off just with a very sharp little scissors. I didn't do that on this one because it's hardly noticeable, but anywhere where it was a little wider than that, I went ahead and cut it off. So there we go. We are all ready to go with my gratitude journal, and I'm very excited. This was a much easier process than sewing in signatures for me. I did use my art glitter glue. It's not a very wet glue, even though it's water-based. Helps the pages not to buckle or wrinkle. And the only problem with that is that it also will dry very quickly. And so if you don't get it down in that crack, you will have pages that kind of fold back and forth on each other, which you don't want. You won't have much time to align it, and so just getting it all the way down in there and really working it back and forth before you lay it down on the page to glue it is really important. Otherwise, you have to basically try and pull the paper up again. It will destroy the page you're gluing it to. So just take your time. I worked a lot like this, just really working it down in there and aligning the sides and the top corners, and then pressing it flat into the middle, and then again closing the book and massaging it this way. So you can see how my book wants to be a little crooked, so that's what I mean by massaging it. I'm just trying to keep the spine straight on the pages rather than like that. So as I work with it, I think it'll loosen up and be a little easier to manage. All right, I look forward to some gratitude page videos that I hope to do. I'm going to try and keep them a little shorter. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.